Hey guys, Mr. Kuminato here, and we're going to be taking you through beginning band worksheet number 2 today. We're going to kind of show you everything you need to know, kind of basically exactly what we did with beginning band worksheet number 1. If you haven't checked that video out, pause, go back, start with beginning band worksheet number 1. 2 is after 1, obviously. So, we're going to go ahead and start with our first line. We're actually adding 2 more notes that we didn't have on the first one. Our first sheet, we used B, A, and G. From now on, we're going to kind of think of G as our lowest note, or number 1. A is number 2, B is number 3, and now we're going to have C, our 4th note, which is just like A, but you lift up your first finger, so it's middle finger only. And then D. D is a little crazy, so I'm going to show you. We have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then on the back here, there's a little key right above your thumb. It's called the octave key. And on D, right now, that's going to be the only note that we have that we're going to use our octave key for right now. Pretty soon, we'll learn a bunch of them that use it. But for now, only D. So we have G, A, B, C, and D. Okay? Now, whenever we're looking at our notes, one thing that we talked about in the first video is as the notes go up, that means I have to change my fingers, and that also means the sound of the note is going to go up. It's going to sound higher and higher as we go. We're going to start on G, and our musical alphabet goes from A to G and then resets. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. We start here on G, and then we continue our musical alphabet. A, B, C, D. Another way to remember is our lines and spaces. Evil grandmas boil dead frogs. So G, evil grandmas boil, B, evil grandmas boil dead, D. And then we also have our spaces. Space equals face, F-A-C-E. So A and F-A-C-E, C. So if you're having a little trouble figuring out your notes, those are like 2 or 3 different tricks to use, and it'll always help you out. Let's go ahead and play our first line. I'm going to start our metronome again, just like we had on our first worksheet, and we'll get started. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Now, if you'll notice, that's basically putting all 5 of our notes in order going up, and then on the way down, we kind of skipped one. Did you catch which one we skipped? A, you're absolutely right. Number 2. If we look at number 2, it's kind of the inverse of what we just did, but I want to point something out to you at the end. Any time that we have notes where we play the first, which for us right now is G, our 3rd note, which right now for us is B, and then the 5th note, which right now is D, that's what we call an arpeggio. We're going to end up having that pattern happen a lot in here, where we go 1, 3, 5, or 5, 3, 1. It'll be a very recognizable sound that you've heard a lot in music a lot, and we're going to end up using a lot on this worksheet. So see if you can kind of notice where your different arpeggios are. Here we go, line number 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. Very good. So did you hear that arpeggio in there? It's kind of a really cool sound. Very familiar and used a ton in music. The next one that we're going to do is line number 3. It's one of my favorites because I call it our home base line. We have a couple different lines on here where we have a home base. And what I mean by that is home base is what we're going to go back to every other measure. So I'm going to give you a second. I want you to try and figure out what your home base is on line number 3. If you guessed our lowest note, G, you're absolutely right. We're going to start on G, and we're going to kind of yo-yo our way back and forth between the notes. So I start on G, and then I go one little step up to A, back down to G, then I jump up to B, then back down to G, then I'm going to jump up even higher to C, back down to G, and then jump up the highest to finish on high D. Okay, so let's try this together. Line number 3. 1, 2, oh, let me get our metronome going, I almost forgot. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Very, very good. Now, for most of you, as we were talking about on worksheet number 1, music has a lot to do with patterns. If you look, number 4 is kind of the exact opposite of what we just played. Instead of our lowest note G being our home bass, like on 3, our highest note, D, is now going to be our home bass. And instead of yo-yoing from bottom all the way up to the top, we're going to start at the top and yo-yo our way down to the bottom. Okay, so if you can start recognizing those things with your eyes, different patterns like that, it'll start to help you recognize and read music a lot faster. Here we go, line 4, start on D. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. Very, very good. Those are two of my favorite lines to kind of do back to back because it kind of practices yo-yoing back and forth. And one thing you'll notice is whenever you're playing long notes like these, especially if you're going from a high note to a low note really, really fast, you're going to have to change the way that your throat plays that note. So you'll kind of notice that you're going from an E syllable almost to an O syllable. So like ta, o. And you'll notice that you're going to that low note a lot easier and it'll come out a lot easier. We're going to go ahead and go on to line number 5. Here we get into some quarter notes. So this is trying to get your eyes to recognize our 2 notes a little bit faster. To remind you, our two new notes on this page that we're adding from worksheet, that are different from worksheet 1, are C, middle finger, and then D, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and your octave key in the back. Okay, so don't forget, those are what we're adding in on this page. If you look right here, this is just trying to get us to play a rhythmic pattern over and over again. It's going to try and trick you just a little bit. So as you're going, try not to let it trick you. Here we go, number 5. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. Most of my students will probably remember, I want you to yell the number 4 on that in your head. So whenever you're playing, you're thinking ta, 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 4, ta, ta, and that'll help you not play on beat 4. We're gonna go on to line 6. Line 6, we basically just work our way down and then land on G, and then we work our way back up, play some D, and then land back on G. Let's see if we can do it. Line 6. 1, 2, ready, play. good. Next we're gonna move on to line 7 and 8. 7 and 8 we're actually gonna treat like it's one gigantic line. So it's a pattern that repeats itself all the way through the entire thing, but we're kind of working our way up and down our 5 notes. Whenever we get to this rhythm, you'll notice that we have rests right after our notes. So we're gonna play on beat 1, rest on beat 2, play on beat 3, rest on beat 4. Then in the next measure it changes. It's a reoccurring 2-measure pattern. So as you're going along, you're trying to think of the same rhythm 2 measures in a row. We just have to switch our fingers in between. Let's give it a shot. 7 and 8 back to back. 2 lines at the same time. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 4. 4. Very, very good. Now we're going to move on to line number 9 and line 10. 7 and 8 are actually 2 of my favorites off of this page as well. I would get really used to playing that over and over again, try and play it faster and faster, because anytime you're playing your 5 notes in order, it's going to help you out. Line number 9. On line number 9, you'll notice our arpeggios pop up again, wherever we're playing 5, 3, 1, and then over here we're going 1, 3, 5. So there's a couple different spots where we're going to do our jumps, our arpeggio jumps, and then, but the rest of it we're kind of just doing the same thing where we're stepping side by side up to our next note. We're just playing our notes in order: G, A, B, C, and then we start doing our arpeggio jumps: D, B, G. Let's give it a shot. Line number 9. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. 10, this is where we jump back in with half notes, kind of like line 9 on beginning band worksheet number 1. So 2 beats a piece for each of these. We're also going to have a half rest pop up. A half rest, the way that you can tell the difference between a half rest and a whole rest, a half rest looks like a hat. It looks like kind of like a top hat that Abraham Lincoln would wear. If it was a whole rest, it would actually be flipped over on that line to where it looks like a hole in the ground. If the line was the land, it'd be a hole in the ground underneath. So that's going to be a half rest. We're going to play for beat 1 and 2, and then we're going to rest for beat 3 and 4. The ending can get a little tricky because we're having to flip our notes really, really fast. But my big thing that I always say is, if you want to level up, if you want to beat the next boss, if you want to get to level 3, which is beginning band worksheet 3, this is the biggest thing to practice, is practice playing your notes in order up and down. Here we go. Let's try doing number 10. 1, 2. Oh, let me start my metronome. I almost forgot. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. 3, 4. Awesome job, guys. Thanks for swinging by and playing with me today. If you would like to, send me some feedback. Let me know how you're doing. jcuminato@musiclearningman.com if you have any questions, or let me know how I can help. And we'll see you back here for worksheet number 3 and tons of other classes. musiclearningband.com. Always be checking back. Thanks.